Hi, I'm Zach Murdoch here at the Herald-Tribune. I'm the local government reporter, and welcome to our voters guide for the 2017 Sarasota City Commission elections. I'm here with businessman and candidate Martin Hyde, and I'd like to just launch into a first question because you're one of 8 candidates running for 2 at-large seats on the commission. It's an open field. You're all running against each other, yet you have set yourself up kind of directly as an anti-Susan Chapman candidate. I'd like you to talk me through a bit about why you've picked that approach and why you're doing that.
Okay, well, I mean, it's more about anti-incumbency. It's more about the outcome of the commission over recent years. If Susan Atwell had been running, I would have been as negative about her. We've spent 4 years. I looked at the articles earlier today, talking about all the issues in the last election. As far as I can tell, we got nowhere. Homelessness was a big issue last time. Traffic was a big issue last time. Development was a big issue last time. 4 years later, the only thing that's changed is we spent $386,000 on a sunshine suit that was entirely down to Susan Atman's truculence. So, yeah, I got a negative with regard to that as far as Susan Chapman is concerned. But you have to remember, I'm not running against anyone. I'm running for a seat, as are the other candidates. I can't win 2 seats, and however well or badly anybody else doesn't push me up the ladder. My mother always told me to try to be positive. It's just difficult when there's not much positive to say.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Interesting. Well, you mentioned homelessness, so let me pivot into a question about that, because over the past year, the city and county and nonprofits have all had a great deal of success, really, in moving some hundreds of people from homelessness to housing. But there still seems to be a bit of a struggle to get everyone on the same page, rowing in the same direction. So I wonder, what does the city need to do to help push that to the next level? And what's the city's role in that greater spectrum of addressing the issue?
Well, they're all interesting questions. I mean, the thing is, I'm not entirely convinced that it has been quite the success. You know, I was on Main Street yesterday morning before going canvassing, and every 50 yards there were people sat out there with their cardboard or whatever else. So certainly there were a dozen or more people on Main Street yesterday morning begging for money and hassling people. As to what's the city's role, the city's role is, the city's role within the county's role is within the state, and the state's role is within the country. This is a national, in fact, an international phenomenon. The argument that, say, permanent housing would be an answer would presuppose that this would be the end of it. People talk about curing homelessness in Sarasota. That's pie in the sky. Ironically, the more or the better we do, build it and they'll come. More and more will come. So it's not a question of being mean, it's a question of being practical. We've got 50,000 people, and that gives us a certain amount of money and resource to spend, and so we have to work around that. And so far as I'm concerned, we can manage homelessness, but we can't cure it.
When you say manage homelessness, what direction do you go in that? This kind of bifurcates into folks who want to see more efforts toward a comprehensive shelter like the Salvation Army, or housing first?
Well, you mentioned the Salvation Army. I mean, it's certainly not homeless first as far as I'm concerned, because as I said, let's say we built 500 units, which I don't think we've got anywhere near the money to do, but say we did, they'd be full at some point, and then more people would turn up. What do we do then? Build another 500, another 500? No. We know what a sanctuary city is as it relates to federal statutes is concerned. We become a sanctuary city of sorts as relates to the social needs or problems of the west coast of Florida. You go from being the allegedly meanest city in the USA to being the biggest suckers in 10 years. I don't think we can do it.
Interesting. Well, another big issue that has really captivated a ton of time at all of the candidate forums we've been at lately has been the big billion-dollar development boom downtown and all the buildings that are underway. And despite all the conversation about whether that's good or bad, it's happening. And I'm really curious to get your thoughts on, it's already underway. How does the city balance this boom with this kind of idyllic, historic vision of old small-town Sarasota?
Well, you can't. I mean, the truth is that we're moving forward, and that's in the past with lots of great movies about going back to being a certain age or going back to a certain time. I get why people hanker after the past. It tends to be viewed through rose-tinted glasses, and it may be that people's best years were at those times. But this is 2017. It's not even the millennium. We're moving on. I'm no longer the young boy that I once was, and the truth is we're all here just for a flick of time. I don't think it's appropriate for government to try to manage to the extent that it is apparently trying to do how people live and where people live. I think we can regulate from a safety perspective. I think we can help things along. I think we can challenge things when they look like they're getting out of control. We don't want to be Northport. We don't want to be Fort Lauderdale. Absolutely, I don't. I chose to live here for a certain reason. But actually, the population of the city of Sarasota really hasn't increased fantastically over the last 20 years. Yes, we've got a few more condos coming on board, but we haven't had any for more than 10 years. The housing stock needed to be improved. We had too few hotel rooms. So I'm sanguine about where we are. I think the market will find us.
Well, but you talk about not wanting to wind up as a Fort Lauderdale type city, and Mayor Shaw has used that same description. So draw the line in the sand for me. At what point do you get there, and what do you do about that?
Well, I think height is a big factor. We're at 185 feet as maximum heights. I think that you're getting to the thin end of the wedge when you start asking about increasing height. Then you are talking about shutting out light. You are talking about potentially then being in a city where, despite being in the Sunshine State, you might not ever see the sun. So I think there is a point. I think I'm happy and comfortable with where we're at. I think the downtown core is a legitimate place to have density. I think outside of that, and I would even include the argument as far as the view is concerned, I concede that that building isn't technically, although it is within the Duane plan, what most people would call downtown. And I could see why they want that setback from the street and not feel so confronted by it. But within the downtown core, we've probably maxed out where we need to be for the time being. And I think, again, we'll find a level that we'll all be comfortable with.
Well, I appreciate you sitting down and asking us questions. That's all I had for you. But Martin Hyde, again, thank you. And the election is on March 14th.